It's hot, damn it! Blood is flowing close to the skin to ditch all that extra heat. But there's no water left for sweat, so it's not going anywhere. This is bad news. Various bacteria show up, like vultures, to wait for the inevitable. With no remaining options, the body turns to magic sufficiently advanced as to be indistinguishable from science.
Voodoo.
This time, it's not some neat new kind of cell that'll be bailing us out, but someone else with an intravenous drip and a bag of saline solution. But if you thought that was dicey, you ain't seen nothing yet. Our blood cell is now enough of a non-screw-up to get a rookie of her own. Well, almost. They meet our white blood cell. He's a nice guy. Real friendly. Honest. Anyway.
Just give me my freaking oxygen already!
Despite a rough start, our red blood cell shows every sign of getting her shit together. And then the end of the world hits. That's a deadly wound. A lot of bleeding. Panic mode declared. They get back to the heart. It's a goddamn madhouse in here. Our boy approaches the wound. There aren't a lot of blood cells left around here. They're all on the outside now. Without red blood cells, these other cells won't get oxygen.
It's all over for us! This world is doomed!
Our red blood cell certainly has her work cut out, but she won't be giving up that easy. It starts getting cold. The rookie abandons all hope, but our girl rages against the dying of the light.
This is how we die!
No! This is how we die! She goes towards the light and finds a bunch of Americans. They don't know how they got in here any more than we do, but there's a job in front of them and some yee-hawing and firing into the air to do when it's finished. Of course, they got in here by blood transfusion. As life claws its way back, the rookie finds she has something to say. Thanks for showing that the iron in the blood is more than chemical. I suppose the first thing I have to point out is that because we see the same red blood cell throughout the series, we can say that everything depicted occurs to the person that is the setting for this show within a span of about 120 days or less. Within that time, they caught the flu and Staph aureus twice, and some horrible intestinal worms. They suffered allergies, food poisoning, and heat stroke. They almost bled to death, and they had cancer. What the hell are you doing, man? That's a rough couple of months. What the show really doesn't go into at all, but which is clear to a trained eye like, for instance, mine, is that nothing in the world of biology truly makes sense unless you look at it through the lens of evolution. I mean, I can't really blame them for not getting into this. Not only is it complicated, you normally wouldn't hit this level of synthesis until you get into some kind of higher education. It's fucking heavy. The theory of evolution tells us that the living world, of which we are a part, is the greatest battlefield of all time, where a constant war for existence ebbs and flows, but rages all around us always, where no mercy or restraint is shown, where no stratagem is too cruel or underhanded, or even ultimately self-defeating, provided it delivers that sweet, sweet boost in short-term survival.
This entire world shall bow to me! Huzzah!
That raises a whole lot of deep philosophical questions, ones that greater minds than yours and mine have spent their lives wrestling with, and often getting driven totally batshit insane by. A light-hearted educational anime for kids would need some serious stones to try tackling that, and I can't really blame them for not specifically going there. For instance, why is so much focus of this series placed on the immune system and its struggle against various invading bacteria, viruses, pathogens, and parasites. Partly because it's a straightforward, compelling narrative that can be worked up into a TV show that makes use of a lot of the usual anime bullshit. But mostly, it's because the war for existence continues at this level, and it's fought every hour of every day. Every time one of these pathogens gets got, it's losing that war, and the body that's the setting for the series gets to fight on for another day. Lose this struggle enough times, and these species will cease to exist entirely. Win them enough, and they get to keep marching onwards into the future. And that's why this series, despite being a silly romp, clearly aimed at somewhat younger viewers, is awash with so much blood and guts, it would draw a blush from my good pal Khan the Betrayer. You can think of this as a kind of arms race, in exactly the same way that the term means when talking about human history. The host evolves an immune response to protect itself against bacteria. The bacteria protects itself against the immune response by evolving a means of evading it. The host immune system comes up with a way around that bacterial evasion mechanism. The bacteria find a way of turning the host's own defenses against it, to the bacteria's favor. The host immune system finds a more reliable way to attack the bacteria. The bacteria find a way to switch it off again. And so on, and so on. Every one of the cells shown in this series is the product of a lineage that has been winning for 4 billion years straight. By now, they all have their own big book of dirty tricks, and are all pretty damn good at it. Which is not to say that they are perfect at it, as a lot of people seem to think. I remember I ran into this thought while working as a postdoc once. The building had recently almost burned down, and while the great unfucking went ahead, I soon found myself with nothing much to do. So I helped a man with the most magnificent beard I've ever seen chop up a big pile of cardboard boxes and toss them into a skip. In retrospect, he may actually have been God.
I kick ass for the Lord!
While we busted ass, he expressed a profound sense of wonder at the glorious perfection of the natural world. How hummingbirds have beaks specifically matching just one equally outlandish species of flower. How ants live in harmony with the fungus that digests their food and which lives nowhere else on Earth. How a big cat is perfectly camouflaged against its habitat to sneak up on its prey. That kind of thing. How could all that have happened by accident, he wondered. I was quite sympathetic. The biological world is indeed full of endless, mind-boggling wonders. But it's not perfect. It's all, good enough. I instead suggested he think about evolution in terms of tools. A flathead screwdriver, for instance, is pretty much perfect for driving in flathead screws. But it's also pretty good for opening a tin of paint, or busting open a door lock, or shanking someone and taking their shit. It's not perfect, and certainly may be quite far removed from its original use, but it just happens to work pretty damn good for all those things, and plenty more besides. We see a great example of this, albeit in the opposite direction. In the cedar pole analogies episode, everything works as it's supposed to, in a way that would ordinarily prove a neat and efficient way of dealing with an attack by a disease-causing pathogen. But since that isn't what's happening, then the immune system as a whole ends up freaking out over nothing. Sometimes this systemic malfunction can get so out of hand, it becomes lethal in its own right. Engineered systems that are designed by competent and intelligent people have measures to prevent such failure conditions. But in a world that works on evolution by natural selection, sometimes it just doesn't come up often enough to be a showstopper for the species as a whole. And that's good enough. Perhaps that feels a little too much like looking behind the curtain. So let me make it up to you by talking about something that I find truly incredible. This process of evolution is something that's leveraged by the human immune system to its advantage. It might not have been particularly obvious while we were watching the episode about T-cell training, but that's where this magic happens. You see, immune cells that target specific pathogens exist in a large population within the lymphatic system. This population can be thought of as a library. Within it, there are T cells that can specifically target just about any arrangement of protein that might possibly exist. When the immune system runs into something new, the proteins from that material are stripped out and presented by dendritic cells to the library of T cells. Then, the best matching T cells are supplied with growth factors that cause them to begin to reproduce as fast as they can, and then to flood out into the rest of the body and start kicking ass. This, by the way, is why your immune system needs a few days to get into gear against some new illness you've never had before, but why it's then wrapped up in short order once that machine starts cranking. A fraction of those T cells will then stick around in the long term, allowing them to grow up into the required numbers and respond much more quickly when that pathogen comes a knocking again. That's why you usually don't get sick from the same thing twice, or if you do, it's a lot less severe. While the creators of this show have perhaps wisely avoided getting too deep into these weeds, it's still abundantly clear that they've done their homework and on the whole have made a hell of a job adapting this knowledge to a format that is much more commonly consumed by biologists than produced by them. However, since at no point did a single T cell even attempt to make a crack about not getting on no plane, I am obliged to rate this series 2 amino acid chains out of 10. Thanks for watching. Did you enjoy this video? Then hit all the buttons. I assume some of them do fun things. What would you like to see next? Please leave me a comment. And with that, I'll see you next time.